I think that's great, because pretty much they'd had absolutely all of their inheritance robbed off them, i.e. their land and their entitlement to the share of the country, robbed at birth. So if they want to go and take a credit card and get a car and not pay it back, good on them, I don't care, that's brilliant. But really, beyond that, I would say that this isn't the kind of thing that you just do just because you want a car, because you've got to be somewhat spiritually aligned really to for this stuff to work. You know, kind of avarice and ego are not really the qualities that tend to win out in this game. You know, so if you're looking to kind of just sit with a big fat mansion and not really contribute in any positive way to society, then I don't think you're really going to get, in my experience, going to get that far. However, if you're kind of supporting a complete upheaval and reappraisal of society, moving forwards towards something far more just and sustainable, you know, and you keep those principles in mind, then you might actually get somewhere. And in fact, we have to get somewhere because there's no choice. We're all going to be dead if we don't. So, Chris, you ready?
Yep.
To grip them by the... Fantastic. Okay, everybody. The wonderful, the amazing, the informed Christopher Ram.
Welcome. Thanks for coming to my first major talk. I've already done a few talks, a number of talks here already for the past 3 months here. So officially my first advertised talk for my 6-month course that we'll be breaking down various aspects of the law. So with the various last 3 months with Paul was a bit more relaxed and casual and just people talking all the time to you, towards you. These 6-month sessions are more about you and actually understanding the whole aspects of law. So within the next 6 months of law, we're going to actually talk about various topics. If I just go to the next power slide to just show you what kind of topics we'll be talking for the next 6 months. So, you know, the next session is going to be what is a spiritual creditor and debtor, all aspects of that. So that's each session, each bullet point we'll be talking about each of these sessions in each week. So that'll be from now to end of February. So we've got various stuff as well as like that. So what's going to consist of this course is each and every week I'll be speaking for about 60 to 90 minutes for each session. After that we're going to have like a 5-10 minute break, and then we're going to do like court role play. So we'll have various situations, so we can play as I'm the judge or someone else is the judge, and get people to have like experience in court, actually how to interact with judges, police officers and all these government officials. So I'll actually give you some tips to how you interact. It's going to be, it's good to practice, so you know when it comes to the real thing it's not going to be the real thing, but it's good to simulate the real situation before you actually do it. So if you kind of study this stuff all the time and you're not actually practicing verbal communication with these people, it's going to be very nervous. You're going to be petrified when you actually go to these courts. Because for me, sometimes I've gone to court so many times already, and I still get that sense of nervousness that you're always going to get when you actually go to court. So it's always going to be a bit scary. So yeah, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, this is the other aspects you'll be teaching as well. So we've got all sorts of things like natural law, introduction to tort law. I'm going to show you how to do lawsuits as well and how to make one yourself. Oh.
Well, ASA are empowering people as well. Fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, how to make money from companies that make mistakes. So if companies are screwing you around, I'll teach you how to actually break it down, how to get money from companies that are screwing you over by pressurizing and make their lives live in hell. But you know, if you do it properly, you can actually get money on a regular basis for companies making mistakes for you. For example, they took a payment without your authorization for your debit card, and you want to screen it. I'll show you how the administrative procedure to actually break it down, how you can actually do that. after that, one of the sessions would be how to conduct yourself in the public side of law. So, you know, people say, there is different aspects of going to court. There's not like one set method to go to court. There are multiple ways. It's like football. Football has multiple ways to play football. It's how it is.
Keep going with that, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. You can keep talking, can you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll just. Okay then. Okay, this is just a quick guide to how you would get the most effective at these classes. So it's really basic. Just start each and every week. I'm be giving you research material for you to study. So each and every week, if you put yourself in the email list, even if you're still in the email list, I recommend you put your name in the email list as well, because that gives me a record to know who actually attended, so I can pass the paperwork to you. So not that email list is a separate email list, but I'll probably nip from the email list. So I'll pass this email list. Even if you're still in the email list, do still put yourself down in the email list so I can just to know who actually came today. This is a different email list. Oh, should what you want to do? Oh yeah, clipboard, yeah, something like that. Anyone need let me just put a pen to give to Michael so he can, it's great. Yeah, so yeah, just put the email lists in, so just make notes during the sessions of any new concepts that you actually come across these sessions. I'm going to keep it really, really simple. I'm going to keep it in the layman, simple language. I'm not going to make anything complicated for you, so I'm going to make it so simple even a 5-year-old kid can understand to do this as well. So I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you. So even all the complex terms I'll explain to you all night long. Even if you don't understand, I'll try to explain it 100 different ways until you understand what I'm trying to make. Or obviously, ask questions during the end of the Q and question and answer sessions at the end of this session. So you're welcome to answer any questions. So if you've got any questions, just put it in your mind, or write it down and ask me at the end any aspects of questions. Obviously, the material that I'm going to give you, you need to put at least 15 to 20 hours of your spare time to studying this stuff. So I'll be sending you a lot of stuff, about 15-20 hours of material each and every week. That's actually really relevant to what I'm actually talking about today. So each week I'll be talking about a certain topic, and then there'll be like principles and fundamentals that each and every week that's actually going to complement what I'm actually saying to you in these talks. So if you don't have any time, try to make time, because 15-20 hours is not, if you break it down, it's only about 3 or 4 hours if you do 3 or 4 hours of studying. And studying can if you're going to drive a car, you can listen to the radio, you can actually get an MP3 player and just listen to the audios that you actually listen, because half of it is going to be mainly audio-based talks, various talks as well. So about 10 hours of the study material that I'm going to send you is going to be around only about 10 hours of audio, and the other 10 hours will be mainly books that I recommend you to read as well. There is actually 2 books that I actually want you to actually get within the next few weeks. One of them is the Oxford Law Dictionary, which is just a really simple. A lot of people talk about Black's Law dictionaries, but the problem with Black's Law dictionary tends to focus on American law and American jurisprudence. That just basically the theory behind the law. There is a really good dictionary, construed law dictionary, but you have to spend thousands upon thousands of pounds to actually get that dictionary. But the Oxford Law Dictionary is less than about £10 if you get it from Amazon.
Find the PDF for Strauss's
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, just send me that out, and then I'm gonna pass it to everyone in the email list. Strude's Law Dictionary, but you know, that's really good. You actually, is it the entire set then, or is it just the whole entire set? Oh, like that's great. You know, I was actually searching for Strude's Law Dictionary for a very long. With Strude's Law Dictionary, bunch of people are doing research and they're asking lots of law students, what is your, you know, dictionary that you use to study the law, and it actually said Strude's Law Dictionary, so you can get it online, so stuff like that. You know.
There's another book that you can get online, PDF, by Veronica Chapman. You might have heard of it.
Yeah, so it's Freedom is Justice and
Word.
Word. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
The other one is So They Say You've Broken the Law.
Yeah, so they say, well, that's a really short book. It's about less than 50 pages long, so it's really really awesome book as well.
How many volumes is Strude's? How many volumes is it?
Fucking massive.
It's massive, so it's going to be massive. It's bigger than Black's Law Dictionary, so it's going to be like hundreds of thousands of law words, and you know, I didn't put it up in the PowerPoint, but you know, try to build a vocabulary of legalese, because legalese is like a different set of languages. Then it might be the English language that they're speaking to you, but it's basically another form of legalese. So it's basically a secret definition of codes and definitions that that the lawyers and solicitors and people within the law know about this, and they try to get the assumption that they're speaking English to you, but they're not really speaking English to you, they're speaking legalese. So if each and every day you can actually get one or two words from Strude's Law Dictionary, just words that you think that's going to be relevant to your situation, so such as interesting words, so you know, something that's going to be relevant to you think that's going to find remedy. So find one or two words that you think will be useful to you for you to actually use, because at the end of the year, when you actually do that, you actually have a basic language of legalese. So if you've studied and memorized one or two words a day from the Strude's Law Dictionary or the Oxford Law Dictionary, then you've got a vocabulary to speak another language, even though it's still the English language. It's like a different aspect of the English language, so that's really great. If you need any problems, for example, you need to set off any debts or anything and you're completely lost and you don't know what to do, please do contact me. You know, it's relevant to your financial situation. If you are financially you don't have any making money, we can make arrangements to actually have compensation can be reduced or something like that. But if you are stuck with any problems, what I can do as a coach is basically guide you to get the relevant paperwork that you need and motivate you to actually do the studying and do the paperwork and the verbal to prepare yourself for court. So if it's like setting off a debt, then I can prepare you to actually set off a debt or council tax, all sorts of stuff. So it will cater for what your experiences is. So if you're very novice, then I do recommend you do about 5 or 6 hours of coaching with me to actually get your mindset into understanding the very principles to know what you're doing and actually be confident to know what you're doing and saying in court. So you're going to get plenty of chances to do that kind of stuff, because each and every week we'd be doing court role plays every single week, so I'll get used to all that as well. So that'll be really great as well. Obviously read and study the books that I recommend as well. Another book that I recommend you to read as well is called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. So it's a really great book. It takes less than 45 minutes to read. It's a really great book to read. And there's also, Michael, you told me that a few weeks ago there's like a complete library of all his books on Amazon. What's the name of it?
It's the complete James Allen treasury.
Oh, okay then.
By his wife. It's called Mind is Master.
Oh, okay, Mind is Master. So if you want to read his whole complete works, it's not essential, but if you want to read all his books, how many books is it, Michael?
19 books and it's
that's it.
£12.
Oh, okay, then 19 books for only £12, but if you do have time, James Allen's a fantastic guy within the personal development movement. I think he's one of the founding fathers of the personal development movement. I read the book every single week and I keep learning fantastic stuff from it. It just, it's mind-blowing every time. Yeah, it's got to do with lots of freeman stuff as I go through it. So it's about talking about spiritual principles and how you conduct yourself and what you think with your thoughts, what you think of these government officials will actually manifest what you think these are. If you think they're criminal scumbags and they're going to try to get you, they will think that, you know, if you think they're honourable people and you conduct yourself properly in court and your come from is a very, because these people can understand human nature. They understand the you know, how you're going to speak and how, if you're antagonistic towards them, not going to war. Because a lot of people, you can say the free man movement, like tend to go to war with these people. And I'm not talking about going to war with these people. It's like stay in harmony with your adversary. There's a good Bible quote that I really like. It's Matthew 5:25. It's agree with your adversary lest you be taken in front of magistrate courts, and if you do not agree with your magistrate, you'll be cast in jail. You go to jail, basically. So it's all about agreeing with your adversary, which I talk about as conditional acceptance. And a conditional acceptance is a counter offer, so you're rejecting the original offer that they're giving to you and you're placing a new offer on the table. So you can't say any conditional acceptance, but you have to say a conditional acceptance that will provide harmony between you to actually move the issue forward, to actually find a win-win situation. Because most people want to screw over the government and the government and the judges and all that. We're not doing. This is not my approach. It's about finding a win-win situation, so solving their own problems, because their problem is all strictly. If it's a debt problem, for example, it's an accounting problem that we have to solve with both sides. So we're going there. We're saying we're being helpful. I come from is. We're going to help them. It's about your thinking, your very thinking, actually understanding what you think in your inner world will reflect what's going to happen in the external world. And that's what I really do find very powerful. What reflects all the experience I had in my life reflects what I actually have in my life externally. So it's very powerful to actually know that. And how you interact with these police officers actually reflect, because they understand people really, really well. And it's very important to know how they work, because they're like the human beings at the end of the day. If you show any ego or belligerency towards them, they will make you pay. They might probably break your heart, make your life a living hell. And, you know, that's people that tend to get beaten up or treated like crap in police stations tend to be, if you fight back or you argue with them or you abuse them, they will break your back, break your leg or break your arm, if you're disrespectful towards these people. But if your come from is, how can I help these people? How can I find resolutions that are not antagonistic towards them? They'll reflect what you think about them as well. So that's how it works. So
Chris,
go to the next slide. Yeah.
I just want to ask a question. You speak about understanding legalese, Polish language.
Yeah.
If a person is a layperson, like me myself, I can't speak legalese, and I understand that you have to know a touch of Latin.
Well, you don't need it necessarily. It would be helpful to know Latin, but it's very difficult to learn Latin. It's a very difficult language, Latin. It's nice to actually talk Latin in court, but I mean, there's no way of us playing on the same level. I mean, with regards to understanding entirely, or. Well, there is maxims of law that I actually want to talk about. There's very good. Were you actually in the maximum law talk? There was very good maxims. Maxims are basically self-evident truths. Basically, thousands of years of commerce of this commercial system. There've been self-evident truths that have been that constantly pay the foundation of our society. And these maxims of law have stood the test of time. So they're like truths set in stone, for example, and they're literally about hundreds of these maxims, and they're very powerful maxims, and it's very important with all this law stuff. You can apply it to people and your family members as well, and your friends and family as well. It's not about interacting with state. We start basic. We start with how we interact with our friends and family and how to provide resolutions towards them as well. So I just want to talk about a formula to get remedies. So as I said to you already, 50% is your come from, knowing who you are, knowing you're not the name. So it's very important to know who you are. So you're not there as the name, you're there maybe as an authorised representative. Say that you work for him if you want. That's another nice tactic as well. Say you're the executive trustee, but make sure It's about knowing who you are. So for example, when you have a driver's license, that's not your driver's license, it's the name's driving license. For example, your credit card, it's not you, it's not your credit card, it's your name, it's your strawman's credit card. So it's very important to understand the distinction, because no living man and woman can actually own anything. You can't own anything. You're born with nothing and you'll die with nothing, you know. You can accumulate lots and lots of junk, but at the end of the day you're leaving this, you know, plain earth with nothing as well. So you can't own anything, you know, only your straw man. And it's a very important distinction that you need to realise to get your remedy. So as I said to you already, 50% of your remedy is going to be your come from, and I already explained come from already for about 10-15 minutes, but it's just knowing that your come from is not necessary to get the remedy. It's not necessarily the knowledge of law that you have. You could, you know, study law for like 10 years and your come from is really messed up and you want to fight with the state all the time and fight them all the time and you're constantly going to war and then end up in jail. It's not about the paperwork, even though I'm going to send you paperwork during this course progresses, obviously. But it's not the paperwork, there's no magical phrases or words that you can say to these people. It's just your whole state of inner being within yourself. So it's very important to know that. Even people that don't realise that, I know people that actually do this kind of stuff and they're very helpful and very considerate, and they don't need me to tell them. I can actually tell that their come from is very helpful and how they deal with these bailiffs and people like that. I can tell in like 30 seconds their come from is to help these people to find their resolution. The second part is 20% of your administrative procedure, so you need a administrative procedure to do all this kind of stuff. Sometimes if you do get arrested, sometimes you can't do the paperwork, so you need to find a resolution to find the solution without paperwork, which can be easily done, you know. For example, if you get arrested for some reason that you don't know, for example, the police got a arrest warrant under your name, and they arrest you for some reason, what you can do is you can do conditional acceptance, but what it's all about is just trying to get the original arrest warrant for your inspection. So you have to actually try to get the original arrest warrant, and so if you can get the original arrest warrant, you can actually set off the debt. Because how it works in the system is that there is a cash amount of money that's after your name, and you're provided surety, so it's like insurance. So every time you don't settle out a court case, you are deemed the captain of your name, and if you're deemed guilty, you're the surety, you're the captain of your name. So they bond you with your name as well. So if you're found guilty of any charges and you go to jail, there's a charge money amount on your head, well not on your head but in your strawman account. So if you go to jail for like 10 years, probably your account is about £10 million. And if you don't set off that debt, for example with a promissory note or a negotiable instrument of some sort, you will go to jail to settle that account of 10 million under your surety, which is a form of insurance against your name. So it's very important to realise that as well. So the last aspect as well is the verbal examination in court. In this case with verbal examination, sometimes in court you might not actually get to court. You know, sometimes you might. For example, credit card debts and some debts, you might not even go to court at all. They'll just stay quiet and leave you alone for like 10 years. So, you know, silent equates to acceptance as well. So it's very important to know that as well. So I've seen people actually do A for V's and promissory notes and get a zeroed out account, but it tends to be rare to actually get that. What you tend to get is like they disappear and you never hear from them ever again. That's from my personal experience, you know. But people, for example, like Michael, he set off he A for V the mobile phone bill, and he set it off and actually gave him a zero bill using negotiable instruments. So it does work. I don't know how it works. Maybe there is a formula to getting it, or who knows. So I think very important to realise that there is a verbal examination to do this stuff. You can't just send the paperwork and expect it to be set off. There is going to be a verbal examination. It might not be for, you know, definitely you're going to get examination for parking tickets and all that kind of stuff. So parking tickets, you know, mortgage cases definitely, credit cards that are worth more than about 10 grand. If you own a loan for more than 10 grand, if it's a high amount of money, expect to be taken into court and be tested, because I think that is actually a very fair point, because if you just put paperwork, everyone will stop paying, you know, all the mortgage. It's a closed system. What I mean by a closed system is that you need to be tested to see who you are. You can't just send paperwork and say, here, say it off. Everyone has to go through a verbal examination. It could be a phone call. It doesn't have to be a court. It could be. It cannot necessarily have to be a court appearance necessarily. You might get a phone call from a debt collector and say, where's the money? And you need to conduct yourself properly to say that you conditionally accept that what he says and prove a claim that the private administrative record that you sent to him has settled this matter. So saying something like that in your private administrative record, as I'm going to talk to you in future sessions, how you can actually break it down, how you do an administrative procedure to set off any debts that you have, to set off to the financial director of the company. So I'll be talking more about that. So it's a closed system, so the way the systems work at the moment, they're not initially going to accept your negotiable instrument straight away. They might even take you to court, and it's going to be your verbal examination. If you conduct yourself properly in court, they will accept your negotiable instrument. That's how it works for me. I know a case, this woman had like a court case for £8,000. It was for council tax. And the way it went was, how it went was, they had various court hearings, and she set off a negotiable instrument of £8,000 to the council. And they had about 10 court hearings. At the end of the court hearing, she didn't actually win face to face, actually get a win. What the judge actually said to her was this: if she got two people from the HMRC to say, you need to do a sworn affidavit to say what's defective with this negotiable instrument. If you don't write to me a sworn affidavit why there's any defect with this negotiable instrument, then this case has been closed and settled, and they never return to you. So the great thing about this law, if you know what you're doing, you're always going to win. The way you win is by they have to respond to you under full commercial liability, and they'll never respond to you under full commercial liability.
Yeah, they can't, because they've only got limited.
Yeah, they've got only limited liability, so it's very important to, when you...
Chris, can I just go over some of these things, just because I know there's people who have different sort of levels.
Yeah.
Basically, just to explain some of these concepts, so the idea, when it talks about remedy, what Chris is talking about is there's different ways in which to deal with bills in the public arena. So when we say public arena, it's not like, Chris, I tell you what, right, you can buy my car for £5 grand, and he goes, okay, here's a promissory note for it. You know, that's a private arrangement between me and Chris, right? So theoretically, you could do that, you know, but we're not talking about private contracts. We're talking about relationships with corporations, with the state. So when you talk about remedy, we're talking about ways in which to deal with debts that are coming at you from government or from corporations. So that's the first thing. So what Chris is going to be going through is there are all these different ways in which you can seek remedy outside of paying with the debt-based promissory notes that they call money. There's other ways. Now, it's not, the basis is there in law, and it's basically the same laws that the elite, if you want to call them that, powers that were, use to control the monetary system, because everybody is equal under the law. So therefore, any laws that they use to create money are also applied to us, de facto, right? So basically, the thing is though that they don't automatically accept that, because if everybody was to use those laws, then it would basically ensue the whole collapse of their power system. So they do generally try and fight against it, don't they? Always, and they fight against it bureaucratically, and then that will end up in a court system. And then if it goes to the court system, it will end up at the strong arm end of the law, which is basically bailiffs, you know, police, all those kind of people in like monkey suits and stuff. So, you know, those are the places where you're having to sort of push it through. You can't just do your administrative remedy. So the administrative remedy are the alternative ways of paying these debts to the public. So it might be one way is to use your own promissory notes. They try and con us into thinking we have to use their promissory notes, which are these little pieces of paper with the Queen's head on. That's just one form of promissory notes. You can also create your own promissory note, right? So that's one administrative remedy that this is going to teach us. Another one is the accept for value process, where you just go, I accept your bill, thank you very much, and you just send it back again. That's another one he's going to explain, or the A for B, accept for value. So these are a couple of ways that you can get remedy in financial situations. But as I say, they're not going to go, oh, thank you, Mr. Ram, for your promissory note, that's absolutely fine, I'll just zero your account. It's not like that at the moment. It might do if we start to get a little bit of movement, you know, we get a little bit of that, probably other things will happen at that point. Anyway, so what you can expect is you're going to go through, to sort of enforce it, you're going to have to go through a whole load of bureaucratic measures to enforce it. So that is your administrative procedure. So once you've done your remedy, i.e. not paying your debt with pounds, but paying it with, say, a promissory note, you're going to have to, behind that, do a whole load of administrative procedures to back it up. So that's the 20% that you've got to know. You've got to understand administrative remedies to do that. The bit after that is you're going to probably end up in court. Sometimes it can end with the administrative remedies, can't it? By doing all the paperwork, they can someone just piss off at that point. But most likely they're going to try and take you to court. So then you've also got to know how to handle yourself in court. So that's basically what we're saying here, isn't it? Batteries, little batteries.
Batteries?
Yeah, just the little double A, everything upstairs.
It's very important to mention
This is double A's. Yeah?
It's very important to talk about as well what you use this for. It's not about getting mansions and cars and lots of money. It's about setting off your brother's debt, your brothers and sisters' debt. So it's very important. It can be parking fines, court costs, mortgage costs. You know, if people can't afford to pay the mortgage, I think this is the best way to actually sell for debt.
I think the other point as well, Chris, is that if we continue to use their system of money, we're actually just contributing to an ever-expanding money system, which is devaluing the present money system. It's basically this massive stealth tax that is resulting in a complete aggregation of wealth from the bottom up to the top of the pyramid, you know? So that is a non-sustainable system. So as soon as we can move away from that system, thank you so much, and start to use a different one, the more chances we have of actually, you know, achieving a sustainable society and peaceful society. So it's actually a moral issue as well. It's not just a kind of egotistical wealth issue. It is a moral issue as well, because we need to stop using their money system. Thanks so much. So it's actually imperative that we actually start to use these kind of things as a spiritual, moral impetus to do so. Isn't that right?
Okay.
The universe must be behind us.
Yeah, the universe it needs to be behind.
You're not just doing it for egotistical reasons, you're doing it for the sake of the planet.
It's very important to mention as well that what the law that we talk about, there's various forms of law, and the law that I'm talking about is natural law. Natural law is the universal law that we conduct ourselves as human beings, and is actually the highest form of law in this country. As you can tell, statutory law is very low in this hierarchy of laws that actually govern our society. So the way the hierarchy of laws works is that natural law is on top, that's the highest supreme law of the universe, you can say. Then second behind that is, you know, God's law, or you can sometimes combine God and natural law. It's up to your belief. Sometimes Christians will put God's law as the top, or you can put natural law. I tend to say the law of the universe at the top. So it's around natural law and God's law, and then the next one's commercial law. Then it's common law. Then it's statutory law, and then it's like bylaws, and then just ridiculous laws that ridiculous laws that the council passed down, like parking tickets and that kind of stuff as well. So it is the lowest form of law whatsoever. So when we're actually doing this kind of law, we're actually doing it the higher law forms that the courts can't recognise. They do recognise it in the private way, but they can't give the game away in the public side of the court. Now, what do I mean by the public and private side of the court? I mean, publicly they can't say to you, oh yes, you accepted our negotiable instrument, this case is dismissed. I wish all court cases are going to be like that, but it's not going to be like that. They're going to railroad you and try to test you to see who you are, and you actually conduct yourself properly in court. So it's very important to realise that what you're doing in court is that you're convening your own courts, because when you actually do a private administrative record, you are, as individuals, you're convening your own court. When I talk about court, I don't talk about court with going to a courthouse and actually talking to the judge. Court can actually start when the police officer talks to you, or you get a phone call from the council saying, can you please pay the council tax? That's when court starts. So it's very important to realise court is one of the definitions that I really like about court is two or more people having a contract with each other, so that could provide that can mean anything. So people that interact with you every day could be a contract. So people, when you're walking down the street, because contracts, you do contracts every single day. The most popular form of contract is called an implied contract. Implied contracts, when you go to a restaurant, you actually, you don't get a written contract to say, yeah, you have to write a contract to actually buy the food. It's implied in your conduct. You're ordering food from the menu, so it's implied by your actions that you're actually going to buy something. So in contract law, there's two types of agreement. There's implied contract, which is by your actions signed and where your actions and actions, and like, for example, nodding your head can indicate agreement. Silence could indicate agreement, which is a form of implied contract. Express contract is obviously verbal contract, so you say yes, you say something, say, yeah, I agree with that as well. So that's the express contract as well. Well, actually, can anyone actually see this, the words in this thing, in this point? Okay then. It's a really, I think it's a really powerful sentence. That's a powerful speech that Theodore Roosevelt actually talked about. It was talking about the Republic and how it's being infiltrated by various malicious organisations, but he had a very powerful speech that's very relevant of governing ourselves. Let me just talk about it for people in the video that can actually see it, because I'm actually recording this talk as well, so you'll be by tomorrow evening it'll be put up on YouTube as well. So it's not, but the quality of it is not as good as it's going to be really dark, so the light's going to be very, very, very bad. But let me just say what it says. We of this mighty resting republic have to grapple with the dangers that spring from popular self-government that tried on a scale incomparable, vaster than ever before in the history of mankind, from abundant material prosperity greater, and also anything which the world has hitherto seen. As regards the first set of gender, it behooves us to remember that man can never escape from being governed. Either they govern themselves or they submit to being governed by others. If from lawless or legaless, from total self-indulgence, they refuse to govern themselves, they most assuredly in the end they have to possess the power of the... They can do from... We have to possess the power of going from men. A sovereign could not make mistakes for his failures. A sovereign must accept the responsibility of the exercise of the power that adheres in him. And where it is true in our republic the people are sovereign, then the people must show a sober understanding and the same steadfast purpose. They are to preserve all the liberty which the foundation of every republic must rest. So what the whole gist of what that paragraph is saying is that if you do not govern yourselves, you will be governed by government. Or it doesn't necessarily be by government, it could be other people or other organisations or ideologies and all this kind of organisation, it doesn't necessarily have to be governed, but the way the system works is a presumption that you are mentally incompetent to do with anything. So the way the system is being created, everything, they treat you like a child. So, one of the definitions of a client is you are deemed to be an insane child when you actually accept a solicitor or an attorney to actually act on your behalf in court cases. Yeah, it's like a guardian, an insane ward of the state.
Because you kind of went over this quite a bit in the last one, so I just want to reference it again. But you're talking about contracting as a fundamental principle within this. So basically what Chris is saying is that, just through our interactions with the system from childbirth, really, we're led to believe that we're not competent to kind of govern ourselves, you know. So really important principle in this is to understand that you are a sovereign human being and nobody has the right to govern you without your consent. Nobody ever. And therefore when he's talking about statute law, if there is no consent, if you've not consented to be governed by statute law, then there is no contract and the government has no right to govern you, you know, according to contract law. Of course, when living in society, certain basic principles of common law always have to apply, you know, otherwise we wouldn't have a society. So basic principles of no harm, loss, or injury and stuff like that. But these kind of man-made concepts, man-made laws, statute laws, parking fines, council tax, this sort of thing, if you haven't consented for them to apply to you, they don't apply to you. Now, you have to sort of assert yourself to kind of, you know, to sort of carve out your kind of space and your freedom for that, you know, and that's what Chris is going to be teaching us. And it doesn't, you know, unless you actually sort of assert yourself, then they are always going to apply these laws to you. But it's very important that you understand that all of these are just offers of contract. Anything like any kind of statute, any kind of council tax, parking ticket, any of these things, it's an offer of contract. It's not enforceable unless you actually accept it. So it's about understanding at what point you are contracting, and the contracting process, which is simply similar to the court process you're talking about, which is a concept, starts right when you first interact with them. It might be a police, you know, telling you to wind down your window. It might be, you know, someone telling you to respond to a letter or anything like this. These are actually the very fundamental building blocks of a contractual relationship, and it's about actually understanding at what point a contract is coming into play and just saying at that point, do I actually want to start contracting with you or not? And maybe I do, but on my own terms, isn't it? So, you know, this is a really important thing, is to understand that you are a sovereign being and that all of these interactions are contracts, and you have the right to contract or not. And if you do contract, you can contract on your own terms. You don't have to accept their terms. It's a very important thing within this, isn't it? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Let's try and get on with the thing. Do the questions later.
You can do with the question answers. So, is it what's the question? So, what's the general? Yeah. Yeah, it's a form of implied contract. It's implied agreement. If you refuse, well, you know, you can ask them, am I under arrest? You know, ask them questions. You know, try to question. When you actually do a question, it's like it's called the Socratic method. And Socratic method, I think it was invented by Plato. When he had to solve a situation, any philosophical problem, they always ask questions to each other to solve the problem, and they constantly ask questions to each other. And I like one of the definitions. It's not in any dictionary, but one of my definition works is the word asking, and I like to define it as in the capacity of the king, because as can be, I include as is in the capacity of, which can be that's another definition of as, so in the capacity of king. So when you actually ask them a question, you're asking them as a king, queen of your own sovereign state. Well, you're all sovereign states. It's very important to realise that. So there's like 60 million foreign entities in this country merges this corporation known as the UK PLC. So the UK corporations, we're unified. We're all unified, and you assume it's all about presumptions. They assume that you're going to get out of the car and be a good obedient slave, because most people that conduct themselves, most people are just going to be told what to do, and they'll accept what their power, you know, what their police officers and judges will say to them. And when people actually stand up for it in respect, you know, interact as diplomats, because when you actually interact with the state, I think the best way, for example, stop and search and dealing with cars is not actually driving without even a license. You have your own foreign plates as well. So, for example, I think there's a guy called Dave Starbuck. He's one of the good friends of mine, and he drives around with foreign plates around and drives the car. Now, I don't recommend him do what he does, because he did get caught. He lost his car, so it's a work in progress. But to be honest with you, there is a procedure that's going to be done in the future, because with all these aspects of law, it's not a complete it's not a complete title, it's not completely finished. There's aspects of commercial law that needs to be explored, and for example, driving as a car as a foreign diplomat is a very powerful way to do it. No one I personally know can drive the car with a foreign plate and a well, not foreign license, but driving without a license. But like I think Dean Clifford talks about driving with foreign plates, so you can actually get and tell what his method is of trying to drive within the country is tell the police your foreign plates and say, if you stop me and you arrest me, here's my fee schedule of £10,000 or £100,000, where you can actually talk about as well.
So that's just a really important thing that you brought up, because we've always been led to believe that the UK is the landmass of the United Kingdom. That's not true. It's a legal construct, it's a concept. The UK is not the landmass, it is just a construct created by whoever, some weird people. So, you know, you've got to make that distinction of you as a human being on the landmass and the conceptual name which you're given at birth, which is registered, and a conceptual name, which is the UK. These are just fictitious things. So basically, you're sovereign, you're a sovereign state, and you can see it as you have a relationship with another concept called the UK, you know, and you have to see yourself as this little kind of foreign little entity choosing to or not interact with another foreign entity, which is a UK PLC, you know, which is a corporation, you know. So it's quite interesting like that. It totally redefines your sort of perspective and your relationship to these things. So you have to understand it's a made-up thing, and you are actually the real thing, and that's a made-up thing, and you can decide to interact with it or not. It might suit you to interact with it sometimes. Other times you might not want to, but that's your choice as a sovereign being.
Let me just finish with the PowerPoint as well. With how the system works, there's two worlds within the system. There's the private world, which is you have the unlimited right to contract with anyone as long as you don't injure, harm and loss to another human being. You can do anything you want. You can do anything that's reasonable. For example, that's anything that's reasonable and doesn't cause any injury, harm and loss. In the public side, it's called a democracy. So your democracy would be David Cameron and all these politicians. So there's all these politicians that you allegedly you vote for, and so, you know, my perception of how the democracy works is that it always leads to anarchy, because it's always going to lead to anarchy. And you can actually see how society has actually been progressing. It's getting much more tyrannical because people are dependent on the state much more, and I think people need to detach themselves from the state because they're only getting tyrannical. So you can actually wake up, because, you know, if you don't wake up, it's going to end up in pure dictatorship. And I don't think, you know, for example, I think in America they actually passed a law. I think like they can actually detain people without a trial and trial without your peers. And if people like David Cameron or people within the Houses of Parliament actually pass the law and say they can kidnap, they can do anything they want, they can kidnap you without a trial and take you to jail for like years and years to never be seen again. Don't be scared. I can only say to you, it only applies to the straw men or straw women. So it applies to your corporation, not your corporation, but the state's corporations that they own. So it doesn't. The law doesn't apply to you. It's only talking about the entity that they own, which is the birth certificate, which is the straw that their corporations own, which is your name. So it's a very important distinction to realise that when they actually pass any tyrannical laws, it's very important not to be very fearful and say, you know, they can only apply these laws if you accept the laws that apply to you. So it's very important to, you know, there is one school of thought within the free man movement kind of thing, is that you would argue with them and say, oh, I don't consent. But as I said to you already, agreement can be implied and it could be expressed. And when we actually argue with these people saying I don't give consent, all that kind of stuff, it sounds very nice and wonderful. Even Theresa May has said, you know, we're governed by consent, but these police officers not going to will not try to recognise that. So it's very important to actually assert your rights, because there's actually one of the maxims of law saying, he who doesn't assert his rights has none. So it's very important to actually know that as well. So when you actually say that you give consent, you're probably giving consent, because the way you respond to a contract, there's two dishonourable ways that you can dishonour a contract, and there's two honourable ways to deal with every contract offer that you get. So what do I mean by contract offer? Every time you get a letter from the post saying that you owe this amount of money, anything that comes out of the mouth of a police officer, a judge, anyone from the council, anyone from the state that say anything to you, it's all offer. It's all offer. So what you can do with those offer, even if the office, they say to you, if you speak one more time, you're going to be held in contempt of court. It's an offer. So if, for example, there's two honourable ways you can respond to that, which is acceptance, which is yeah, accept that, or yeah, accept that, and there's the second honourable way is a conditional acceptance, as I actually mentioned to you already, which is a counter offer to reject their original offer. So, for example, the last example, the judge said they're going to give you contempt of court. Say, yeah, you know what you can say in that aspect is if the judge says to you they threaten you with contempt of court, you can actually say, I'll do what you want me to say what you want me to do under my protest of objection, under my objection, duress and coercion. So what you're trying to say there is that the contract is invalid, because if you're under duress and coercion, the contract's invalid. So it's very important. For example, when you're in the police station and they ask for your fingerprints, if you willingly give your fingerprints to them, that's expressed you're giving your consent to them. But the honourable way to do it is say, I will not physically resist you. You're welcome to physically harm you. You're welcome to actually put your hands on me, to place your hands, but it's under my objection, under threat, duress and coercion. I will not physically resist you or argue with you. I will not resist you with that aspect. So I think the aspect I'm trying to say to you, don't willingly give what they do, give your fingerprints or a photograph in this case. So it's very important to realise that if it's under duress and coercion, the contract's invalid and you're not giving consent. So if the police officer physically forces you to give a fingerprint, the contract's invalid. You're still honourable, and if you put your head down when you take the photograph, you're still the police officer's forcing you to actually take the photograph, then you're not giving consent, because they're physically forcing you to actually do it. So it's still invalid and you still haven't given jurisdiction. So when you're actually in that situation, do say that kind of term. So you're willing to give fingerprints, but I say in the words that I'm not refusing to take my fingerprints, but I've asked for my original arrest warrant for my inspection. If you can't give me my original arrest warrant for my inspection so we can settle this matter now, what I'm going to say to you is that I'm not going to physically resist you. This contract is invalid because it's under my objection of duress and coercion, and I will not physically resist you or fight with you or argue if you physically force me, if you place your hands on me, or say something on the lines of lines. The gist of the message is, as long as they physically force you to do it, physically place your hands on you, then the contract's invalid. As I said to you, it's very important that you have all the power in the world. And you know, in society, within the mainstream media and to some extent the alternative media, it very externalizes your power to something externally outside of you. So, for example, you'll place your energy to the powers to be, whatever, the government or whatever. So it's very important you have all the power. You're the sovereign of your own life. You are the creator or maker of your own soul. You're the one that creates the experiences in your life. Within the mainstream and alternative media, they're very externalized. They like to focus on the minutiae of the external world. So forget about the inner world that you actually have. You know, focus in the external world. You know, look outside of you. Look the solutions outside of you. It's never inside of you. So you're placing power on some organisation. So you're getting rid of all the psychological powers that you have, because you're placing it on the media, or you're attaching yourself to, for example, secret societies or Illuminati, or you're focusing on what they do. It's not about personally speaking, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers have no influence over me unless you give your consent to them. So it's very important to realise you only give your power by your consent. And if you constantly read, because I got deceived. Everyone was very fearful. Everyone was leaving London during the Olympics because there was going to be allegedly a false flag alien attack, and nothing actually happened. So people were very fearful in that time, and very, very fearful that the end of the world was going to happen. And a lot of people with this kind of alternative kind of movement, you do yourself a disservice placing your energy something external. All the world is created around you is the external representation of what's inside of you. So it's very important actually to recognise that and do that as well. Okay then, let me talk about this as well. So everything that happens in your life is neutral. So if the judge says to you, you're getting 10 years in jail, he's getting pissed off at you, screaming at you, it's all neutral. It's very easy to actually react. But what's very important is to never react in a situation, always live in the now. And what do I mean by live in the now? Paying attention, because it's when you're actually in court, it can be very tempting to actually argue with the judge and fight with the judge, so you're scum, not swear and abusing, but basically try to fight with them, and people tend to fight with them. They get stronger with the state, with the government. The more you physically resist them, the more stronger they get, because they know how to deal with, for example, protesters. They know how to deal with these people, because it's still as like you're trying to argue and trying to fight with them. They got the police force to make your life a living hell, so they can physically force you to do whatever they want you to do. So it's very important to realise that your power is by the individual. It's not by mass protesting and giving out mass leaflets. Because I used to be like a big 9/11 truther. I gave out like thousands upon thousands of DVDs, and I thought, I'm going to wake up the masses, and all that kind of. Eventually, people are going to know. People are going to know. You can't wake up the masses. I have to accept that most people can't govern themselves, and they need the democracy of they need David Cameron and George Osborne and all these MPs to tell them what to do, because they don't know how to govern themselves, and they, through willful ignorance, through our imprinting through the school system, the media, our parents and family, it's there, people can instantly wake up in a sec, but it's still in a trance, and you have to accept most people will never wake up, unfortunately, but it's not important. The most important thing is to keep doing what you do, regardless of what happens in the external world, and not waiting for the great mass of enlightenment to happen, which might not happen or might happen. I'm not saying the enlightenment of 2012 might happen, but I think the way human consciousness works at the moment is that it's constantly it's static at the moment. I don't see any great enlightenment. I do know there's over the last 10 years there's been great development. There's more people waking up. There's 2 or 3%. I say about maybe 1 or 2% of the population are actually waking up and reclaiming their power over the 90% of people that are still sleeping and only care about X Factor and Lady Gaga and all the garbage minutia that the democracy offers. So it's very important to realise that as well. For example, everything that happens in our life, it's all a neutral event. When we make a judgment in our life, it's very limited. When you look at the aspects of things that happen in your life, for example, death could be consumed as a very bad thing, but when we die, we probably don't know what's going to happen to us. We might end up in a great black pit for the rest of our lives, or we could end up in heaven, or we could be reincarnated. We don't know what's going to happen to us when we die, but to assume death is bad, at the end of the day, you have the right to exist, but we're all going to die at the end of the day. So it's very important.
It's because of my sleep, and I enjoy my sleep.
Yeah, you enjoy your sleep. So death is not necessarily a bad thing. If we all die in an earthquake, or I get run over by a car tomorrow, it's not a bad thing. Maybe I was destined to die in that day and time, and that was you know, what was my purpose here in the planet is to get run over by a car. Obviously, try to live as much as I like, but it's very important to when you actually make a judgment, or you make a judgment saying this thing, horrible things that happen in our lives, it's very important to put things into perspective. If you say that's a good or a bad thing, you know, it really limits us, our perspective, how we look at the world. So when people, you know, one of my mentors that actually does this stuff, that actually invents the contract law, the method of how I communicate with the police and state, is a guy called Gordon Hall. Gordon Hall he's a fantastic guy. You're going to get lots of material from him in the next 8 weeks of him talking about contract law and how it all works. But his whole story is that
why don't you share very quickly, just to give it a bit of a break, something different, the chessboard story. Why don't you tell that?
Oh yeah, the chess, yeah, with Gordon Hall, yeah, I'll quickly tell the chess story about Gordon Hall. But the story of Gordon Hall is really simple. He ended up in jail for about 6 or 7 years for tax invasion. And the way he looked at that, he was sentenced to prison for about 6 or 7 years, and the way he looked at it in his prison sentences, he looked at it as the best thing that ever happened to him in his whole life, because he understood the rules of the game in prison. He actually experimented in jail how he actually done this stuff. There's actually one amazing story that Michael actually said to me as well about the chess set story. There was one time when he was playing chess, and the warden of one of his assistants of the warden of the prison wanted to take his chess set, and he said, I conditionally accept that you take my chess set, but upon condition that you pay me $40,000. And then he actually took the chess set, and basically what he did was a private administrative record, like a commercial lien on that $40,000. So what he did was enforce a lien on the warden of the prison. And he actually enforced it in court, and basically the warden of the prison tried to get rid of the lien, but the court said to him, sorry mate, we can't do anything about the lien, it still sticks and you can't do anything about it. So it actually worked. It was a game of cat and mouse, you know. It was a game of chess, and you know, the guy initially, in the beginning as well, he actually said he completed his private administrative record, and he said to me, he did a deal with the warden. He said, yeah, we agree with that deal, and then like the next day he said, I remember we had the deal, but forget about the deal, just do the commercial lien again. So he did the commercial lien again, and he got $40,000, you know, $40,000. He didn't get $40,000. The way the story ended is that he got his lien enforced, and the only way you can get rid of a lien is by Gordon actually getting rid of the lien himself. So he did that, and then after a few weeks, one of his friends in prison had to see one of the patients, one of the people in prison, wives, were in hospital she was basically dying in hospital, and the warden made a deal with Gordon and said, if I let this prisoner go to see his dying wife, will you let go of the $40,000 lien? He said, yes, I agree with you letting go of that $1,000 lien. So the lien does work, you know, my perspective, liens do work, but with most people that do the lien process, it's not finished. For example, it's not a work. It's always a work in progress. All the administrative procedures, they're always a work in progress. So the administrative procedure I'm doing right now, it could completely change in a year's time. It's not that I'm saying that the current administrative procedure doesn't work right now. I'm saying I always want to constantly improve my administrative procedures. So I always want to get a remedy in a much more effective manner. I want to do less paperwork, just do the minimum paperwork that I need to do, and just do, you know, I don't want to spend like writing back and forth letters to each other. I just want to have a simple process, because the process I have it's not, I wouldn't say it's paper intense, but it's reasonable paperwork. And if there's people that are doing the administrative procedure in a much more effective manner, I'm always willing to improve to make it much better. So you know, just put in the next slide. In the last slide, you have to look at all major events as being neutral. So all major world events that happen around you, it's all neutral around you. So anything that happens with the court and the state, it's all neutral. Don't condemn it, don't say it's bad or good or evil or whatever like that. It's very important to, it's just what it is. It's facing what it is. It's facing what the situation is. So it's not, you know, you're not obsessing, get very bitter and angry and say, that judge was a criminal scumbag and I hate him forever. You know, it deters you if you don't. There's a rule that I live with, and I'm not like a master in law. It's just that I studied the law for about a year or two, and I understand the basic concepts of how it all works. And you know, the most important lesson I learned is that if I don't get the remedy that I want, it's something that I did wrong, and that puts so much power in myself. I'm not externalizing power to something else, saying, "Oh, the judge didn't let me win because he was a criminal scumbag." Something I say, if I don't win, it's something that I did wrong, and I can learn from that. And people like Gordon Hall make lots of mistakes. I think he's the master of contract law, and he made like tons of mistakes actually developing what he did, what his method of how he gets remedy in court. He didn't do it straight away, he didn't do it perfect straight away. He made lots and lots of mistakes till he eventually found a way to actually find a way that was, it was like trial and terror, I call it. So he kept trying different methods of getting remedy, and finally he found something that was very effective to get his remedy. So it's very important to realise if you don't get the remedy that you get in court, it's something that you did wrong. It's not what the judges did or corrupt courts, or for example.
So you say take responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility of your whole life. Yeah, you're the master of your own soul. So everything that happens to you is something that you do wrong. You know, I may make mistakes in court. You know, I've got an interesting court case now where I'm going to interfere as a trust, and this trust is going to interfere to set off a court claim case. I hope your court, it's basically court's cost of a trial that actually happened over 2 years. I think it's going to be about 40 or 50 grand. So it's going to be very exciting for me to do court cases because of negotiable instruments that I've sent already in my 5 or 6 times I've actually done in my past. I actually hasn't gone to court, and I think, you know, I like to test myself in court to see what I'm going to do because it's going to be very exciting. And what I'm actually going to do is interfere as a trust. The trust is called the British Principal Surety Trust. So what you can actually do this with your friends and family as well, because I'm going to talk about it more in one of the sessions in Introduction to Trust. But trust is you can interfere in the behalf of your, you know, the friend that you need to help, and basically say, I'm a trustee for this account. I can sell the debt that you have. You basically just send a negotiable instrument to the financial director, whoever you send it to interfere on behalf of the person that you owe the money to, and you can actually do that as a potential court tactic as well. So the person that you help, you can actually intervene on their behalf for a trust. So say the trust, it's all about image at the end of the day. Say the trust has hundreds of millions of pounds and we want to help this poor person deal with the issues, so we're going to sell off the debt. It's all about image. If you give the image that you've got lots of money and you're very popular and you got lots of money and you know how to deal yourself properly in court, you can actually intervene on behalf of people that don't know the law that well, and you can actually say, yep, I'm a trust, I'll pay off the debt, and you can actually go to court and say, it's all role playing, it's all a theatre in court. You're going to go and say, I'm the executive trustee of the British Principal Surety Trust, and you know, I can go and give a grilling to the opposing solicitor and say, you know, what's defective in the negotiable instrument? You know, I conditionally accept what you say, and prove a claim that the private administrative record, which is your negotiable instrument to the financial director, has not settled this matter. So it's things like that you can do as well. So I'll be teaching that kind of stuff to you in future sessions as well. As I said to you, that you are the magic bullet. It's not the paperwork, it's not the magic phrases that I say to you. You are the magic bullet. So it's very important to say that it's not the paperwork that's going to give you the remedy, it's you. It's your own inner being. If you know what I'm actually saying to you, it's your own state of inner being. What will determine if your success is not. You can have no knowledge of law whatsoever, but if your come from is in a very come from place that you want to provide resolution, being helpful towards these government officials, they will replicate your sense of energy towards them because they can sense the energy that they have for you. So it's very important to actually realise that as well. So it's your very being that creates the remedy, and they reflect what they think about you as well. So if you put in the next slide.
Chris.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's probably good to have emotional detachment, or not having an emotional attachment to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah,
to cool, calm, and collective.
Yeah.
And then you can observe what's going on.
Yeah, to be very observant. Try to not condemn yourself. You know, it's all theatre. It's all play. You know, you always constant. Because in our school system, we teach to think that making mistakes is bad, and if you make mistakes, you're stupid and you're incompetent. Successful people always constantly fail to success. So if you're constantly failing, there's nothing wrong with failing. Nothing wrong with failing. So if you constantly make mistakes, say I did that wrong, I did this wrong, and you constantly improve yourself all the time. You know, when you actually do this commercial law stuff and you actually try to add this stuff, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect straight away and win all your court cases all the time. You might mess up in court and say something ridiculously stupid, or you might freeze up in court and you say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't believe this stuff worked, it was all bull crap that Chris was saying, you know, all those people that were doing it in court cases, you know, it was all nonsense. It's just that, you know, sometimes people freeze, you know, it's understandable. I had a court case a few days ago and I literally thought the person that I was helping was actually going to disappear, and actually, you know, was really nervous. She didn't want to turn up to court because she was really scared of her court appearance, but thankfully she turned up about 5 minutes before the case, which is not ideal because as soon as I got into court, the court trial actually started already, so it was a bit annoying, so it actually met an hour before. But it's your whole innocence of being that will get you the remedy. And there's one great story that I want to talk about, your sense of inner being, getting the remedy that you want. For example, I know a guy that actually said this, he tried to do the freeman stuff apparently, and the way he tried to do the freeman stuff was not paying a ticket, or he got a child ticket, I believe, and he was basically an adult. And he come to the conclusion the freeman stuff didn't work because he said he didn't give his consent, and he didn't pay. He was supposed to pay for the child ticket, and what he did was create a controversial by creating an argument, making statements. Because I said to you, I might not say to you, but there is two dishonourable responses that you can do with every contract. First one's it's been silence. Silence equates to acceptance, which is equate to fraud. So every time you stay silent, you're accepting what they say to you. So it's very important to respond to what they say to you by a conditional acceptance or acceptance in this regard. So very important, everything they say to you, every single paperwork they send to you, you need to send it back, either with a conditional acceptance or return, no contract return to sender, or something reasonable to that as well. So it's very important to realise that as well. So I think in that fourth option, the second option, which is dishonourable, is argument, which is making statements, reasoning, justifying, explaining. So if you make statements explaining, justify, explaining what you're doing, is you're creating controversy, and you're not finding the honourable resolution. It's very tempting to create an argument, you know, making statements and arguing. But it's very important to, when you actually, every single contract offer that you get from these people, it's very important to do a counter offer them to reject their offer, because if you constantly make statements, you're creating controversial, and you could escalate into contempt of court, or you might lose your court case altogether if you start arguing, because it's very easy to get an argument with these people. I've been recently, in the last few weeks, I've been talking about watching Deep Space Nine Star Trek. I know it's a really old series of episodes, but when I look at the episodes, it talks about various aspects of contract law that I really like in these episodes. So, for example, some of the episodes that they talk about is the Great Link, and the Great Link is this race of people called the Changelings, and basically it's all to do with oneness of consciousness. We're all one consciousness in the state of how we work, but because we're so disconnected with that consciousness, we're all, the way, we might have a different skin colour, we might have a bit different race, we might have a different upbringing, but what makes us the same is our emotional responses. My sense of happiness, my sense of sadness, joy, happiness, all these emotions, they're all the same. If you actually look and you look at all these emotions, they're all the same. You know, it's not different emotions. When you sense sadness or happiness, the vibration is always the same. So even though we have differences between our race and all that, religion and ideologies and kind of like that, what makes us similar is our emotions. Our emotions are all the same. When we feel happy, we're happy. Our sense of, there's different degrees of happiness, obviously, but our emotional sense of inner being is always the same as every single human being in this planet. So it's very important to realise that as well. So when you actually do contracts as well, in law as well, it's very important never to take a position, never attach to a position. You're always in the now, and you never take a position. So you're going to go to court and say, I'm going to fight the judge, I'm going to say I don't give consent on Freeman land. You're going to fight with them and create an argument. It's always paying attention to what you're doing. Is you're paying attention what the judge is saying to you, what the government official is saying, or the police officer is saying to you, and saying, you know, what counter offer can I provide that will provide honour and, you know, honour to me to actually have a constructive conditional acceptance, because you can't say any conditional acceptance. You have to find a conditional acceptance that is very honourable. So a police officer says you're under arrest, you can say, yes, I conditionally accept that you're going to arrest me upon condition that you produce me the original arrest warrant for my inspection, so we can settle this matter now. So you're happy the police officer to arrest you upon condition that you produce me the original arrest warrant for my inspection. So the great thing about actually getting the original arrest warrant, because it's actually a negotiable instrument, is original arrest warrant for my inspection. Yeah. When you keep asking them questions, as I said to you, you're asking questions, you're in the capacity of the king or queen. And when you actually get the original arrest warrant, that is actually a negotiable instrument. You can actually set off that negotiable instrument. As I said to you already, it's important to actually say to you, there's a charge on your account. You can actually set off that charge in your account by setting off using in the best way. If you actually get a original arrest warrant, it's important to actually get you can set off, for example, doing an accept of a value. So you do accept of value, return for value, accept from levy, and then you put your national insurance number and you set off your original arrest warrant. They will let you go. So people that actually persist on getting the original arrest warrant, they might actually let you go altogether if you persist in that 72 hours. If you don't persist in the 72 hours, they might throw you in jail for a bit longer because you didn't conduct yourself properly. So if you persist of asking for the original arrest warrant, you're always going to win. And they might even take you to actual court, and they might actually let you go in court, because it's all different, you know. When you get your remedy, it's a great experience. Very few people can actually hold up for 48 hours to 72 hours to ask for the original arrest warrant. And you also got the unplanned agreements. For example, they'll force you to wear the custody clothes as well, and the photograph and the fingerprints. So it's all constant testing. They're constantly testing you within those, like, for those 72 hours. So it's very important to realise that as well.
And you can set it all under duress, though.
Yeah, it's all duress as well. You know, if you say you're under duress and coercion, then the contract's invalid, so they can't do anything to you. Getting back to Deep Space Nine, there was a really great episode where there was a cloud in the sky, and in this cloud in the sky, it was literally playing with people's fears, because this cloud in the sky could literally destroy this village. And this village is like how they defeated this cloud. It came every single year, this cloud. And the way they defeated the cloud was basically, how they defeated is that they had no fear of the cloud. So there was a priest for this particular episode, where this priest was supposed to perform this ritual where he was basically working the crowd up to say this cloud has no